Okay. Nick, it looks like you're talking, but I can't hear you. Or maybe not.
He said he's trying to join the Google call.
Oh, okay. Oh, I see it. I had to accept it. Okay. Great.
Okay, I'll turn off my camera, shall I? So, just when you were talking there, Jaron, I was getting it fed back twice to me. Can you just say something?
Oh, I need to mute myself.
Yeah, that's happening. Yeah,
There we go. How's that?
Perfect.
yeah, that's perfect. Can
Great.
you hear me okay on the Google call then?
Yeah, it's coming through great.
Perfect, cool. So that's okay. That's picking up the microphone on the headset then.
Awesome. So, should I be like true scale with this, or should I be larger? And just let me know how you guys want me to move through the space.
Well, I mean, the ending is this sort of dog food bowl primary experience, right? But the larger story is the entire line, because there's kind of a meta story of redesigning trike, but also redesigning the way we conceive of a project.
Okay, cool.
I think it has certain callbacks to, I mean, it's definitely stuff that we've already seen with the other groups, but certainly there's little elements of the around talk that I gave as well, that I'll be sprinkling through here.
Oh man, I wish I'd heard that.
You'll get your chance. I think it uploads to YouTube next week, right, Jaron?
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. Hey, what's the Michael? So what's the benefit of having the walls around this thing? Is it so that we go inside it?
Yeah, once you go 100%, it's meant to be like the consumer
Oh, I see.
experience of the vehicle.
Oh, I see.
Right? So
Okay.
when you stand in here, it's just meant to sort of block out the rest.
I see. Okay, got you. All right, perfect.
Great. Well, it looks like we're okay. It looks like we're now live. So,
Okay.
yeah, I'm gonna just go ahead and introduce you both and let everybody know what's going on, and then we can just get right into it. I'll follow you guys through the work you've done here. Um, so I just want to thank everybody for joining. If you're not sure what's going on or what this is, if you're new, we've been we ran a challenge with a group of pioneers that we selected, and we put them in teams together, and they're from all over the world, different places, but they all are in different industries, automotive, footwear, and we tried to mix them up and tried to see what they could come up with together based on a prompt, which was redefining blank. So it was a pretty open-ended prompt there, and we just want to see what they could do together in collab, and putting their great minds in design and seeing what they could do. So that's what this is. This is Team 7, and we're joined today by Nick Gravely from Clay Moto Design, and I'll let Nick talk a little bit more about that. And then we have Michael Smith here from Ford, and it's just a pleasure to be with them and to see just like the cool stuff they've been working on. And myself, my name is Jaron Dorman. I'm the design community manager for Gravity Sketch, and I get to connect with all of you out there in the community. So yeah, this is just great. I'll just throw it right off to, I guess, Michael, if you want to start and introduce yourself and a quick introduction.
Sure. Michael Smith. I've been at Ford for over 20 years. I've worn many different hats. I've been a designer. I've been in charge of recruiting, and most recently, I'm in charge of a wonderful R&D group, mostly dealing with tools and technologies that make designers' lives better, and certainly working in VR is one example of stuff that we're playing with.
Awesome.
Okay. I'm Nick Gravely, and like you said, so I run a company called Claymoto. Well, basically, I'm a freelancer, but I've been working in the motorcycle industry for, I don't know, 10 plus years at least. And primarily, been working as a modeler, clay modeler. But previous to that, I was actually working as a designer. And about this time last year, I bought my Oculus Quest 2 headset because suddenly the price point was so good that I couldn't not pursue this. And I'd actually been aware of Gravity Sketch for some time. And yeah, finally I could jump in and do it. And yeah, it's just been transformative in my entire workflow and what I can bring to clients. And now I'm kind of just gradually one by one signing all my clients up to this as well. And they're kind of seeing the power of this themselves. And it's been absolutely transformative for me. So
Awesome.
I guess
Yeah.
that's about it. And yeah, it's been really nice to kind of connect with Michael to work on this project together. One of like hundreds of projects, seemingly hundreds of projects that are going on.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Well, it's a pleasure, and I'm glad you guys have been able to do something together. And I know that with a lot of these teams, it was going to be a little bit of a toss up as far as who'd be able to work together, just because of time zones and everything. And you guys are pretty far apart, so. um, but yeah. Anyway, so yeah.
I'm going to echo the sentiments because I've really enjoyed this working with Nick as well, and I think it sort of bears a little impact to our backstory here is that we called ourselves Team Lucky Seven, and then ultimately had a couple personnel changes, I'll call them, where our initial team got shuffled. But I want to say that there's sort of a testament to how this can work, right? That we
Mm.
got something together, right? So Nick's alluded to the time, you guys alluding to the time differences. That was definitely a challenge, but it was also a challenge
yeah.
to have people, I wanted to have Charlie in our group, and he contributed, which we'll talk about here at the beginning, but he had to bow out for very understandable reasons. And I think it's sort of interesting to me, the resilience of an idea, right? The idea
Mm.
came together here, but it was in all of our heads at some point, right? And this sort of that's why we stretched this whole presentation out, sort of beyond what was normally sort of seen as the end, right? This would typically be thought of as the end, and that's why we took it a little bit further. But we can get into that.
Yeah.
It's been great fun.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, it was great. It was a great shame that, I mean, I had a really great session with Charlie right in the beginning, and it was, we went over stuff, and Michael came in, and we were able to talk about this whole concept right at the beginning. But yeah, unfortunately, Charlie had some personal reasons to bow out. So it has just been a duo basically since that first meeting, really.
Yeah, so over here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So and obviously he and I are both quite busy, and it's been quite difficult with his because obviously this is something we do in our spare time. It's fine when I'm meeting a client in California because that's kind of
Right.
during business hours. But yeah, to try and I know we're not the only team that's had this time thing, but it's been a thing, and we made it work. Through the same way that everyone else is, leaving notes and drawing lines and messages and stuff, and so yeah, we made it work.
Awesome.
I think that was interesting though, Nick, was the transition from WhatsApp into when we sort of committed to jumping into VR. I know because I know we initially had some conversations in WhatsApp, and it definitely had its purpose, and it was a good anchoring point. But man, everything else you see down here is a direct result of bringing like these initial sentiments. I sort of picked apart some stuff that Nick said, and I'm sure, when he says most trikes are crap is a paraphrasing, right? But he really wanted something, more fanciful and more interesting driver position. And then I think these are Charlie's notes: form follows performance, and and I wasn't involved in this part of the meeting, right? I came in here, I copied some of the notes, I brought in some imagery that I thought was appropriate. Then these guys, and I think I did maybe. I mean,
this is what you done. This is what you did, wasn't it, Michael?
These two things, right? But what was really cool about this whole process is that because I wasn't in the next meeting, I think the idea got way better because it was way more stretch, which I hope you'll agree when we get to the end there. This
Yeah.
idea. Go for it, Nick.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go on, go on.
No, just the idea. If it had just sort of stemmed from one person's mind, it would have been limited by its nature. But the fact that three brains came together, right? And there was one point where I came in here and I looked at this and I was like, oh my gosh, what did these guys have to drink when they were having this meeting? It was,
Well,
I mean,
you
it's
know what?
really wild.
I think we were just trying to look at something that would keep us all kind of interested, right? So, Michael, you ride motorcycles, you drive cars, and you fly, okay? And Charlie was into cars, I think, as well. Does he have? I'm not sure if he has a motorcycle, but interestingly, he used to work on this roller coaster ride at Six Flags or whatever it was. And I love motorcycles. I used to be into cars, but not so much as soon as I discovered motorcycles. But my father was a pilot, so I'm kind of into aviation and flying and stuff too. And actually, one of the things that when you're riding a motorcycle, it's that kind of essential experience you have is the kind of flying down the road, and as close as you can make it to flying, the more immersive that experience is. And kind of, I don't know if Michael, did we ever say what our title was? Redefining. Certainly for me, it was kind of like redefining like the driving experience or the riding experience. That was kind of what I was thinking. But and so we ended up looking at all these inspirations like hang gliding and
so awesome.
What's currently there and stuff to kind of I don't know, brainstorm a package basically, or just a riding experience that we could all get on board with. And and so we kind of ended up with this sort of prone position that's kind of referencing hang gliding, and the dynamics of riding a motorcycle, leaning into the corner. Same as if you're in a go-kart or something, you try and and you're going through a corner, you're trying to get your entire weight over that front inside wheel, or at least that's what I do when I'm in a go-kart. And so this is kind of all the stuff we were trying to put into this driving experience. And then, Michael's the designer out of us, or the automotive designer out of all of us. And so he actually came in and took the junk that I did here and turned it actually into something, started proposing out some lines here. And then this is actually kind of not a lot normally how I'm working. I'm kind of given either 2D sketches or some like rough lines from a designer, and I take those and kind of run with them. And so it's kind of like moving from this side to this side. We kind of started to tie it all up into a bow and make all those lines a bit more interesting, make them into surfaces that would actually work.
Wow.
Michael, you got anything to add to that?
Well, just that this is, I think, where you and I were jamming, right? Is where it sort of got really magical because, and I must say that you kind of threw me for a loop when you're like, okay, but you're the designer, so you make designery decisions. Where I wanted, I think we ended up doing a lot of sort of crosstalk, which I think was very. I hope it ends up being visible in the final product, right? But this sort of where we come from and the mindsets that we bring to this equation is how this thing evolved, right? I started talking to Nick about I want to have some plausibility, right? So let's get some chassis elements or some frame and sort of understand where, even if it's fanciful, where stuff can go, right? To start to block it in. And that's where I think we ended up with some really unique stuff, like the whole concept that the weight of the occupant is held and offset by this arm, right? That they're being held, in sort of close formation with this machine, so that they can move around really quickly with this hand glider motif of an interface, right? An actual mechanism for steering. And that stuff, I don't think like this is the stuff that happens in the moment, right? And I think there's to me this really wild aspect of time shifted, which we did at the beginning, right? We were just sort of all throwing ideas out in WhatsApp. Then we had some people shifted, meetings where not all of us were in the same room at the same time. Um, but that this is how it's got to be in the future, right? Is this sort of taking what you can get out of a situation and maximizing the interactions between people.
Hmm.
This whole notion of aviation and hang gliding, it starts to lend itself into, well, BMW has a history of airplane engines, so why don't we add tail surfaces? And so why don't we add tail surfaces that really work?
Hmm.
Why don't they do something? And so this, an aesthetic through line starts to develop, right? And that's why I became a BMW. I'm not affiliated with that company, but I can appreciate their past, right, and their future, and interpret their aesthetic onto this vehicle that they don't currently make, right? And
Yeah.
and certainly I don't get to draw these at work either. So, um, it
Yeah.
was, that's, to me, this is the sort of all the magic is happening, and then the joy of being able to lay down lines concurrently with Nick and have him say, okay, cool, I'm gonna go and I'll work with this, and then come back the next day and it's all surfaced up. I'm not used to having that happen. It's really kind of awesome. Um,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, I mean that's kind of
That's
what I
cool.
do, isn't it? Like I'm doing it like day in, day out. I'm in here doing surfacing, like, and that's, I mean, for me, this is a this is a natural progression for a clay modeler, not just for a designer. And I feel like I may be just alone in the world with that sentiment, but was that not now because I'm teaching a clay modeler at GM, who's who's on off his own bat has decided to pick this up. So credit to him. But yeah, like I don't know. So to me, it is a design tool, but it's absolutely a sculpting tool. And yeah, I mean, I've proven that on several projects now with clients,
Yeah.
that we do all the development in here, and then we're still doing clay work, but we're not doing all the form finding and all the the idea all the messing around with ideas that you want to do. Like it's so within clay, it's quite restrictive.
Hmm.
And I say that I've been doing clay for 20 years. I love it. I absolutely love it. But it's nothing in comparison to what like form development, form finding that we can do in here. And we take these surfaces and mill them out in clay, and then it's kind of like moving 1 millimeter, 2 millimeters, to kind of refine those surfaces, because this is not a surfacing program,
Right.
But then again, you can also take this stuff out and refine it in Alias or whatever as well. So it's, I mean, it's huge. This thing is huge for me. I'm getting off track and away from this project specifically, but
It's fascinating to hear, though. It's really cool.
and
yeah, yeah,
we left all the notes in here because I think, as as alluded to before, when we think of how design in VR it's transformative for how we're doing design. I think it's also important to think of it as an archival tool, right, or a progression of thought tool. And so, in my around talk, I was alluding to this idea that this is what I want to see from students in the future. Right? I want to see a whole
Mm.
project with everything that they started with in their ideation, and essentially all the stuff that you'd get in 2D, but I want to see it in 3D because now I can do exactly what you're doing, Jaron. I can move around, move through the space. I can evaluate it in a completely different way than any other traditional two-dimensional portfolio. And and if the designer is there, we can have a really interesting talk about decisions that they made, and 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 that's sort of just deciding to use CoSketch as an archival thing, and it also might mean sort of related to the stuff that's already come up in terms of the feature requests coming out of the Pioneer collaborations, right? Where, you know, teams wanting to leave voice notes or audio snippets, or,
Yeah.
um, certainly ideas about um, the text tool and post-it notes and things like that. So um, I think that's one of the reasons why we consciously left all the notes in here, was to speak to this idea of this timeline of a project stretching out and being able to
Mm.
go back to, hey, where did we decide to do that, or where did that come about? And you can
Yeah.
you can see it.
Yeah,
It's right
thank
there.
Yeah.
you. Yeah, thank you for leaving this. I mean, it's really insightful to see just the thought process. And I'm not gonna. Yeah, you basically said it there. So
Okay.
they
I can't
yeah they.
remember if they're all family friendly. I can't remember.
That's funny. That's awesome.
I'm
Um,
pretty sure they're family friendly.
okay, cool. But did we? I don't know if we mentioned, Michael, about the kind of how this thing is working, or is that maybe that's down the road, what we came out with, um, how
This is
this
where
is
we
supposed
figured.
to
Yeah,
actually
this is
function.
where we figured that stuff out. So yeah, if you want to start talking about it, go for
Yeah,
it.
yeah. I mean, well, just like in case you're looking at this and you're going, "Oh, what were these guys thinking?" Yeah, essentially. So Michael was saying basically, the rider's here, and this kind of arm thing here takes the weight of the rider. So he's got this kind of big harness on. So he's basically his body weight is taken by this sprung arm here, which rotates around this axis because this is the arc of his
Oh,
arms.
very
So it's
cool.
basically he always stays the same distance away from the handlebars. I don't know.
You're gonna have to
Whatever.
name it, Nick.
Handlebar.
The well,
Handlebar.
I don't want to call it yet because we're going to have to trademark it at some point, and I don't want someone trademarking it before we do it. Yeah, but basically, yeah. So as you kind of steer left, the rider moves to the left, and it's all. Yeah, I think we never really kind of got. Did we ever get like a full proposal on how the braking and accelerating is taken care of, or is it all capacitive on that? Touch.
I like where you're headed, Nick.
On that thing. Yeah. What was this? What was it you said earlier, Michael? There are things that are not yet
Yes.
eventualities.
The externalities are not yet completely known.
Absolutely. So yeah, it was, but it's
Yeah.
it's cool to have like blue sky opportunity to just be completely blue sky thinking crazy stuff, and you know, so yeah, and hopefully, like I mean, I think this is probably the best looking trike I've seen for I don't know forever. I don't know. Someone send me a picture of a better looking one. I think it's cool.
Yeah, it's really really cool. The
Yeah.
form is so interesting. I've never seen anything like this before, which I think is a testament, obviously, to the work and the thought that you guys have put into this. And so this is just really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know everybody else.
Air brakes as well.
Yeah. Oh wait, let me see. I also want to just say, anybody that's watching, feel free to ask questions in the chat too. We can address maybe some questions later. But yeah, pop them in the chat if you have any.
There's definitely a balance that we tried to strike with how much detail to put in. I had every intention, I think, to model every subsystem. However, I think we just stopped short and said, hey, look, why don't we just get it so that the suspension looks plausible and believable? And so choosing areas to detail out mechanically to us was a really important part
Yeah.
of the sort of motorcycle heritage of this, right? Rather than it looking too much like a snowmobile for warm weather. I think that's why certain decisions were made about sort of what to hide and what to show, and again, I hope we really push that aesthetic. I did do some renderings on Sketchfab. I'll be making the model public on my Sketchfab after this presentation.
Oh,
I wanted to
awesome.
keep it sort of hidden, but these screenshots down here in this primary experience bowl those are all from Sketchfab. So the power of just being able to dump this model into Sketchfab and start to color it up.
Yeah, it's so cool, man. That's really really cool. Yeah, I can't wait to see it on Sketchfab because and you presumably from that you can project it onto your desktop and stuff with that augmented reality view and stuff.
Correct.
Yeah, man, that's so cool.
And I think typically this is where it would end. We'd say, here's our final presentation. But I think part of redefining the experience of something that is sort of so unknown, right? This gets into, again, elements of the talk that I did for the Around conference, is, how do you get an experience of which there is no experience of that yet, all right? And so beyond this final product, let's start to use VR for what it can do even more of, right? And that is to help simulate and gain empathy for this blue dude, right, who's going to have to wrestle this thing around a racetrack or a street someday. And so that's where, when you go beyond this, down the timeline, uh, that's where I threw in these elements of virtual training, maybe get into simulating or prototyping, or having a full awareness of a new type of manufacturing process. What
Wow.
elements might be 3D printed. And you can see here, all I did for this was I took the model and synthesized or distilled it down to its sort of what would show up at a dealership or at your home or in a back of a truck. If you're going to pre-buy this, the truck pulls up and you jump in the back and you have this experience. How do you train a driver who's never used this sort of control mechanism before? How do you get them
Yeah.
comfortable with it? And certainly the answer is you put them in VR, right? And so
Mm.
it was really easy just to take the model and
Mm.
crunch it down to what is the sort of minimal touch points. There he goes. He's already doing it.
It's
This
like,
is the payoff moment has arrived.
no!
That this would allow you to have an experience that you've never had before. And how you do that is with simulation. And I think that's kind of, I didn't touch on it in the around talk, but I think that's where game engine and certainly the integration of this type of content creation into an experiential thing, right, using Unreal or Unity or something like that, would is sort of the logical, obviously the next logical step. I didn't really get too far in the 3D printed manufacturing. I decided to prioritize something that Nick and I had talked about, and that was the experience and these little vignettes, right? Answering people's questions about, okay, well, that's a cool looking design, but it leaves me with lots of questions like, how do I get in and out of this thing? And so, again, it's super easy just to keep copying this thing down the mirror plane
Yeah.
until I had to start committing to turning the tires, and that's where where the wheels start to turn is where this model got. I baked a lot of mirroring, um, and so turning this into a corner on a racetrack, and so you can start to see
That's so cool.
with max braking, the V-tail goes into it articulates the control surfaces such that it's giving maximum drag. And Jaron, if you look at it from this rear view, you can sort of see really starkly the difference between max
Oh, yeah.
braking and
Yeah.
turning left, right? It's this idea of using coupled controls, right, to give you a little bit of help steering, right? It's obviously not gonna do the steering, right? The tire and the contact patch are gonna do that, but in terms of helping that rear tire to start swinging around, you can help influence it
Yeah.
with aerodynamics. And then the last one is the experience of, if you're about to stuff it into a corner, that this vehicle really wants to save you as the operator, and it cranks up and launches you uh,
Oh
as
my
a
gosh.
as a safety feature.
That's so awesome.
Or launches you into the second stage of the race, which
There
is
you go.
something.
Oh, Nick,
Who knows? Who
see that?
knows?
We're gonna save that for the next collab, Nick. That
Yeah,
that sounds like a
absolutely.
cool idea.
Wow. As if
Yeah.
driving this thing isn't high octane enough. It's like you have to be ejected out of it. I mean, it's a safety thing, I know, but that's awesome. That's just so cool. I love
We're
that.
trying to think of everything, right? Which is again
Yeah.
what I think allows, when you're able to compress the process of design, right, into these moments where Nick was up super early in the morning and I was up super late, right? The amount of thinking that we were allowed to do in that moment, I think, was the reason why we got to all of this, right?
Yeah.
And it wasn't, right, if this was a very, I would consider a pretty short project.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, it was really. Yeah. Yeah.
and then the only
Wow.
other thing is this giant purple line is meant to say, hey, when you change yourself to 1% scale, again, this is that nod to when you stand out here, you see this project in an entirely different way, right? Versus 100% scale at the center.
Yeah.
And again, it's meant to be not just the sort of traditional design process where you end up with something. It's the consideration of everything beyond that I think is truly the superpower of designing in VR.
Yeah, I mean, so you're talking about the process, and that is very true what you're talking about. But actually, the the one thing that I find absolutely the biggest superpower for me is the like just it within terms because I spend most of my day trying to design a single product, right? And it's the being able to iterate like 50 times, like 50 different things, and have them all here visible next to one another, and be able to change so quickly, and the communication between the designer and myself to be able to, um, not you're not trying to put air tapes on if you've worked on a clay model, you know what an air tape is. It's like you trying to put a tape over where there is no clay, or you can't put a tape through the clay, and so you end up doing a very approximate job of communicating what you want. Whereas within Gravity Sketch, you can do a very precise communication with the other person about, hey, what if we did this? Or the designer can say, no, listen, make this line exactly run like this, and so either I or the designer can isolate that one line, like be it whatever feature line, and make sure there's no kind of crazy S's in it or anything like that. And
Totally.
those things there, and then once you've done this like controlled wireframe as well, you can when you skin it up and just put the surfaces on, which actually is incredibly quick. Once you've spent the time defining the design of those lines, that actually, um, it's just so incredibly quick to change stuff and to communicate ideas, and this really is basically the first iteration, isn't it, Michael? We didn't do any design iteration because, unfortunately, given our professional commitments that we had elsewhere, we didn't have as much time, I guess, as we'd love to have in this. But I really see that what you've started with this collab thing. I could see this being you could create an entire platform where people just kind of create their own little groups and do their own little projects and jump in together, and maybe I don't know whether people, because some people just get annoyed by other people. Everyone's got an opinion, right? And so you don't necessarily want 50 people coming through your room and giving you an opinion. But for me I would never meet Michael necessarily in any other opportunity. I mean, I don't really move in the car world, especially as well. So, actually to kind of break down those barriers between people, and give them a place to collaborate is really amazing. Like, and Michael's been in this for what 3-4 years or something, and I've only been doing this for a year. But already I can see just the change, and just 5 years from now, 10 years from now, this is just going to be insane. Like, I am so excited for the future of what we can do in this.
Well, I just got to say, I mean, it's just incredible, incredible work, and all the things that you guys have been saying. It's I can't say it really better myself. I mean, just I a big ditto to everything you guys have said. And you're saying exactly what I'm thinking. So, but the level of detail and that you guys have gone into this is just amazing, and just a huge thank you for the work that you've put in to this just little challenge that we were running. Is just a huge thank you from me and the team. It's just I think it's a stellar example of working in collab and connecting with each other, sharing ideas, making those notes, and just seeing visually that journey through the project. And it gets me excited too. I mean, if this is something that you guys can do just like on your off time, you're not working. I mean, imagine what even more people can do with endless time, and more people can get into a room, and it just boggles my mind, the possibilities. I can't even imagine where it will go. But yeah, I mean, just super cool. It's just it's almost like I could say a lot of things, but just like this is super super cool. And it's really really great.
Thank you. That's cool. Yeah. So I mean, like, Jaron, can I shamelessly plug quickly my training?
Please.
Okay.
Please.
So I'm so sorry to do this. This is absolutely shameless, and I'm ashamed of myself for doing it. But and I'm not even sure I have enough time to do it. But I actually run a training course for Gravity Sketch, and Eric Stoddard does a great course, I'm sure, with focused on designers and stuff. But actually, if you really want to know how surfacing works and how to model, I think I may offer something different. I don't know. I haven't been through Eric's course, and no, I absolutely respect him and what he's doing. I think it's great because he and I are both trying to bring this to the world because this is just the most important tool that
Yeah.
has been put in front of designers since Photoshop, probably. And so, but yeah, if you want to find out a little bit more about my course, you can go to grav.design and you will find information about the course there. And yeah, it's a lot of fun to bring this to people and be in this kind of collab space with, I had one session where I had a guy in India, a guy in Israel, a guy in California, and I was in Germany. And okay, that was difficult to find a time that worked, but we made it work, and completely seamless. It was yeah, super cool. So
that's awesome. Well,
so,
thank
yeah.
you for sharing that. I mean, it's good to plug because honestly, I mean, the work that you're doing, the work that Eric Stoddard is doing, I think is really helping. The training aspect is so important, and so it's I mean, we're thankful to you guys for running these training programs and teaching everybody how to do this, and that and it's really it's just empowering the design community is really how I see it. Is like it feels like, because I mean, I come from the community myself, and so my feeling has always been like, I got to share people, I got to show this to people because this is just going to give them more ability, more power in their tool belt. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And if you're a designer watching this, go and tell all your clay modeler mates or the modelers you're working with to come and check this out. It's just because I don't think it's appealing to many clay modelers. And actually, I tell you, I just want to say one last thing about why it's really good for clay modelers to move into this rather than digital modelers, if I might.
Yeah.
Because actually, clay modelers, the reason why this kind of just occurred to me the other day. The reason why clay modelers or what you produce as a clay model is so much has a certain feeling and stuff is because you're walking around it constantly. You're constantly looking at it from every single different angle, and you're seeing the way the edges work at different angles and everything. You see it in a different way to when you're working on a computer screen. And so, but this VR retains that ability to look at things from every single angle. So the refinement process has all of those pros that the clay has, which actually, like digital modeling on a screen, doesn't really seem to have. So yeah, so really, really is so important that clay modelers or people with a physical modeling experience move into this, not just people who have got digital modeling skills. I don't even think it's really applicable because people who've got digital modeling skills, no offense to them, I have lots of friends who are digital modelers and they are great at what they do, but it is not really for this concept modeling phase, which this is so perfect for. And physical clay modelers, have that ability to go from a 2D sketch to a three-dimensional object and understand how that translates better. And that just comes because they've had tons of experience in doing it. I mean, is that mad, Michael, what I'm saying, or would you echo that?
Nope, I echo it. It's
Okay,
and that's kind of one thing that we're hoping, right? That as skills might transition into the future, one of the things that transitions, I think, in a sort of gray matter perspective, everything that a clay modeler knows transfers really well in VR. And in terms of knowledge of surfacing or knowledge of how to work a surface, we're counting on that, in fact, right, to leverage that.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well,
So,
I will ask you guys this last question. Obviously, we've been asking all the teams, but yeah, is there just any, as you guys have been working together, are there any ideas that you've gotten that that can improve Collab. It's just want to say really quick, anybody that's watching, Collab is now out for everybody. So when we were running this challenge, it was actually only for the Collab Pioneers, to get some insights into working in Collab, working in different time zones, and things like that. But it's actually now out for everybody. So you can go and try this now. But I'd love to get your guys' feedback on, yeah, any ideas that you've had during the experience that would be really cool to have in Collab, or something that would make it just even more powerful, even more seamless when you're working with other people in VR.
I mean,
Man,
for me, I've sorry, Michael. I'm constant. Michael, I probably, I think, speak for both of us. We're constantly in contact with you guys and the developers, telling you ideas and telling you stuff. Anyway, so I don't know that I haven't already told you ideas that I've had. I mean, they have been plentiful, but Michael, you got something?
no, I would just say that it's very much the case where, I think in terms of the low hanging fruit, I think all of it has been talked about, right? In terms
Yeah.
of the ability to leave more like post-it notes. I love playing drums with the keyboard as much as anybody in VR, but a post-it note or a way to to more quickly, somebody, oh gosh, maybe it was in somebody else's talk in the chat, talked about co-sketch or collab becoming more like 3D Miro. And I was like,
Mm.
yeah, that would be sweet. Except, Miro has a lot of refinement done to it that makes it a Miro type experience. And
Mm-hmm.
so I would think, in terms of making this more seamless, it just requires, that sort of intention to glue in things or to append things to collab that, that allow, easier bringing in of imagery.
Mm-hmm.
And I know, and again, I'm not going to get into it in terms of knowing what we know about the hooks required to instantiate a Chrome window here inside VR and do Google image search. Not only get into that. That's for the developers to hash out. But it's stuff like that. I think
Yeah.
anything that just sort of allows for the breaking down of, if it's a time barrier, can't really solve that. I can't move Nick from where he's at. Um, Anything that helps that sort of time shifted aspect of working together, we made it work. So I think in its current form, it works.
Mm.
It's how do you get it to sort of be more elevated is the riddle.
Actually, one thing occurs to me now. You talk about the post-it note thing. Is actually, if you could have a thing where you say, right, I'm recording from now, and it's like an external camera that you position, and it records you and all the line strokes. I mean, I've messaged you previously and asking you if you could record line strokes and stuff, but maybe this is an application which you might find interesting.
Mm.
That if you can actually, so if a designer wants to say, I'm not available in the room, and a designer wants to leave me notes, well, it's often useful to be able for him to annotate with lines while he's talking. Well, if he just leaves a loads of lines in and I come into the room, I'm like, what was that? But if I can see them being formed while he's talking, so if he says,
Interesting.
hey, look, this is a bit flat here, if we
Yeah.
can make this a bit more crowned, right? And I'm, Jaren, I'm in your perspective, and I can see, oh, that's what he's talking about. I can hear an audio clip of him. I can see him doing it, and I can actually see the line appearing. I mean, that's a comprehensive communication,
Yeah.
not just a line with an arrow with some interpretation required from the other, the reader.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a
And
really, really interesting idea.
that's a cool one. I think it's animated callouts, right? Because we always tell students,
Yeah.
hey, look, put callouts in your drawings so we understand, what this transmogrifier, is, or what this, particular unobtainium solution that they've got going.
Yeah.
A call out is great, but you don't want to sort of ruin the experience of showing the final product. So maybe it's sort of, again, it builds into Jaren, what we've sort of talked about with the team for a long time about presentation being a different mode, right? And I think
Mm.
what Nick's talking about is maybe an interesting sort of kernel of, you build that, build what Nick's talking about, and that can extend into a presentation mode where the presenter could be there or they might not be there, right? And having, excuse me, having the ability to hit play on a sequence of those would go a long way to helping the designer to explain their logic, right, or how they progressed something in a really kind of cool way.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
a
yeah.
really cool idea. This more interactive way, living sort of living features, living way of experiencing in collab. I think I would put this in the same category as like the voice notes, because you're hearing someone's thoughts, as it plays out. Um, it all feels more like this very alive space, um, and yeah, that's really interesting idea. I think I would like to maybe type something up to the team too to see what they think of that, because I could see that being really useful.
Yeah, that would be useful for tutorials also. And this is kind of what I was getting at when I was asking Daniela about it. Um, because yeah, like it's one thing to look at a tutorial, but it's another thing to be in a room with a teacher.
Hmm.
And actually, if I'm not, the thing is, it's kind of expensive for me to be in the room. But actually, if I just record myself teaching, hey, this thing, then actually someone can just go and hit play and then see me teaching it to them. They may not be able
Right.
to interact, but they can rewind it, replay it, and it'd be like a proper VR three-dimensional tutorial.
Yeah.
So
I
yeah.
see Michael. He drew up a
I already just
little.
prototyped the interface.
Yeah, UI experience. That's awesome. No, I mean
So,
like it's really cool because I mean not only for teaching or explaining something, but well, I guess this is in that category, but like for animating something even. I mean, you could show how something actually works, like not just even drawing lines to point to something, but actually like moving something. It could be a way to show the function of something. So
Yeah,
so many
yeah,
applications I can see with that.
yeah, yeah.
maybe
That's
it's an
cool.
extension of the viewpoint functionality.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
totally
yeah.
could be. Yeah, I could see that for sure.
Because then it's a guide. It's like playing Half-Life Alex. Went through that whole experience, loved it, and now I'm replaying it with the developer commentary on. And all it is these little love notes from the developers as you play the game, and you learn something different, right? And so
Wow.
it's a layer that you enable, like viewpoints, right? You say I want to be in the viewpoint mode, and all of a sudden now the viewpoints could be just taking you to a certain perspective, or they have a little play button underneath them that runs an animation that Nick has thought of actual
Cool.
of actual interactions. That would
That's
be
really cool.
super wild.
Yeah, yeah.
I
That's
want it.
cool.
I want it. I think it would be awesome to have.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
funny too because sometimes these ideas are like, it makes sense and it's like, that's cool. And then we say it to the team. They're like, okay, well, that would be super hard to do. I'm like, oh, okay, all right, gotcha. But I mean, yeah,
Okay.
we'll see though. I mean, I want to send this over to the team because I think this would be really cool. Maybe somebody's actually
Well,
already,
surely,
maybe they've already
surely
talked
this
about it.
whole thing is quite hard to do, but it's
Yeah,
incredible.
for
It's
sure.
incredible, and it's paid dividends.
No,
You
yeah,
know.
this
So
I mean,
yeah,
it's incredible what already exists, what we're already doing right now. It's just amazing what the team has already been
it
able
is.
to do. And also I think too, like, and I think we all know that these things are not impossible. None of this is impossible to do. It's just more so, having enough brains on it, enough time to dedicate to it, obviously. So,
Yeah,
but
there's some lower hanging fruit for sure.
yeah, if something is really worthwhile, we'll put our focus on it and we'll make it happen. So I think it's more so
Cool,
just
cool.
like proving the usability of it and yeah, the applications. But anyway,
Yeah,
yeah, I think it's an awesome idea. I think this would be super cool to have. Um,
cool.
well, I just want to thank you guys really so much for this work that you've done. It's I think above and beyond what we expected, to see done, and it's just like really inspiring to see your process. And you've basically said everything. Like I don't really feel like I need to ask you a ton of questions about collab and everything because I feel like you sort of through your storytelling, you guys both really told your experience and talked about yeah, just like where you can see it going in the future of everything. So yeah, just
Cool.
all I really have to say is thank you, honestly.
Well, it
Well,
was a
thank you
tremendous
guys
amount
for
of fun.
making and thank you, Michael. It's been great. Well, thank you guys for making this incredible tool and inviting us to be a part of this. It's been cool.
Let me just double check, make sure there's not any like questions that I want to ask before we wrap it up. Let's see. Yep, just a lot of like, this is cool stuff, cool work, like people getting excited about it. So not any direct questions, it looks like. But yeah, thank you guys. And again, for anybody that's just now joining and watching, Collab, what we're doing right now is available now for everyone. So all you got to do is just go to landing pad and start your room. And basically you can click on your room, add anybody else that has a landing pad email, and then you're able to invite those people to your room. They have access to your room, and that's a living space, just like what we're in right now, looking at this awesome work. You can do stuff like this with your colleagues, with your friends. So yeah, get out there and start working together.
Hey, Michael, what's your Sketchfab user ID so people can go and see this?
Yeah, plug that, Michael, because you've got some amazing models on that account.
It should be I draw cars in 3D as well.
Sweet, yeah. Go check out Michael Smith on Sketchfab. He's got some really awesome models that I think all of them are Gravity Sketch. Is that right?
It's all Gravity Sketch from my very first. Literally, my first one that I uploaded is called My First Gravity Sketch, and I'm quite embarrassed. However, the progress of the sketches follows exactly with the development of this software in the stratospheric arc of development and improvement. So you can literally see a timeline of the whole team's efforts in improving this product.
And you have some some of them are downloadable, is that right? Or
I don't think I've made them downloadable.
Okay, I couldn't remember, but you said you're going to maybe do that for this one, or
this one will be visible.
Okay,
Nick and I are maybe. I don't know if we should talk about our plans.
Well, everything has a price, doesn't it, Michael? So
yeah.
Nick at claymoto.com if you want to send us an offer.
Yeah, cool. That's really great. I just couldn't remember what you guys said specifically, but yeah, that's awesome. No, well, yeah. Again, thank you guys so much. Yeah, go check out Claymoto Design right on Instagram. I'm trying to remember what's
claymoto.com is my motorcycle design and stuff, and grav.design is grav.design is where you'll find the information about Gravity Sketch training.
Awesome. And then, yeah, check out I Draw Cars in 3D on Instagram to see Michael Smith's amazing work, as well as I Draw Cars in 3D on Sketchfab to see the cool models. And you can check it out in VR too. That's another thing is Sketchfab. You can put your VR goggles and see it in VR as well. So, yeah, thank you guys so much. And thank you everyone for joining.
VR high fives.
Yeah, I was going to say this is the high five. Yeah.
Awesome.
This was one of the ones. Yeah, high five. You need to implement haptic feedback. Cheers.
Cool.
See you later, guys.
All right, see ya.